Hello, good day to you. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Fear to Freedom Project. I am your host of this amazing channel. I am Deborah, and today we are conquering fear. I got together with some of my goddesses sisters who are bringing their unique medicine to our world, and we are going to be talking about fear and how to overcome it. And so I want to bring these ladies to the stage one by one. Here we go. Welcome, ladies. I'm so glad you all are here. Hello. Hi,
Thank you for
all of
having
my
me
goddess
on.
sisters. Thank you. I am so honored that you are with me. I have chosen and selected you because the spirit has led me. And if you are here, you were just handpicked. And so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
We are here to actually do a overcoming fear roundtable. It just came to me and I wanted to address it because a lot of things are happening in the world, and there's going to be a lot of things happening in 2025, and so I wanted to address how can we deal with the fears that may come up in our lives. So um, let me start by welcoming everyone. You all are so great, and I'm glad that you have chosen to accept my invitation to come here. And I want the audience to know just who you guys are. So I'm going to start with Goddess Marni. She's the first one up on my screen. So Goddess Marni is the founder of Sankalpa Women's Collective and Rebirth Alchemist. She is dedicated to helping women reclaim their voices and rise from patterns of overgiving and being unheard. Drawing on over decades of experience in wellness and spiritual practices, she blends Ayurveda, feminine alchemy, cyclical living, sacred community, and ancestral women to guide women on transformative journeys of self discovery, healing, and empowerment. Welcome to the panel.
Thanks,
The
Scotty.
next, yes, you're welcome. Next up is Kels. All right. Keli Turner is a dynamic and resilient woman whose life story embodies strength, grace, and profound wisdom. Her triumph over cancer, a distinguished career in law enforcement, business consultant, and renowned event planner. I love that part. Keli has orchestrated countless successful projects that reflect her creativity and her expertise. In 2023, Keli experienced a spiritual awakening that further deepened her journey, blending her life of service, personal growth, and boundless desire to inspire her. And guess what? The Keli objective is coming, so stay tuned for that. You will see that around YouTube. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
Next up is Goddess Esther. Goddess Esther is an intuitive coach, an intuitive oracle, an educator, a creative writer, and a seeker of patterns and meaning in every day. She has spent her life weaving threads of ancestral wisdom, cultural exploration, and personal transformation into a tapestry of offerings designed to help women grow, heal, and step into the fullest expressions of themselves. She has been around the globe and now resides in Bali, Indonesia, with her husband and her kitty child. Welcome to the panel. Next up is Katherine Ellie Grace. Oh my goodness. A retired nurse from over 40 years of experience turned her journey from trauma, burnout, and fear into a path of profound transformation. After a spiritual awakening led her to boldly relocate from New York to Panama, she discovered the power of soul contract readings, a revelation that shifted her from surviving to thriving. Now a certified soul contract reader, she helps others break free from limiting patterns and stepping into their authentic power. Welcome to the panel. And last but certainly not least, my sister and the person who is responsible, so to speak, for my spiritual awakening. This is the vet. Since her childhood, the vet has possessed a unique gift, the ability to hear and communicate with the spirits on the other side of the veil. This extraordinary ability has provided a profound understanding of the afterlife and its connection to our own lives. With an extraordinary background as a retired behaviorist and a deep respect for humanity, Devette approaches her work with compassion and clarity. She has experienced she has a poignant experience that occurred after her bonus dad crossed over. She heard his voice clearly, very comforting, telling her to go and get her driver's license. And although that first drive resulted into a ticket, what it did for her, it bridged her to connecting the living with everyone on the other side of the veil. Welcome to the panel. And I'm so excited that you guys are here. I really am. And I want to let everyone know how we are flowing today. We're going to talk about understanding fear. Like, where does it come from? There are different places that, fear comes up in our lives, and that it was born, that it has, its roots somewhere. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the origins of fear, and we're going to have an interactive activity. So we're going to be doing some releasing of fear. So if you are out there in the world, listen, go grab yourself a candle, go grab yourself a piece of paper, so that we can talk about fear and discuss this. So I want to open up our circle with lighting our candles and calling on our ancestors to support us in this effort. Yeah, yeah. So I light this candle and open up the teacher circle. And I call on our ancestors to be with us as we address fear, as we are expelling our medicine into the world. So thank you, Ashe. All right, all right. So here. I have my papers to get through. Okay. All right, so I want to start talking about where we understand fear to come from. So I want to start with Kels. Um, what do you think about fear? Can you share a moment that there was a fear that held you back? I mean, you worked in law enforcement, and so that in and of itself scares me. But is there a fear that held you back? Anything that held you back from realizing your dream? What does that look like for you?
For me, and I thought about that too. For me, it is a little different because if I went before law enforcement, I can't really think of a time where fear stopped me from something that I wanted.
Mm.
Fast forward into law enforcement, the training, the understanding of what the job is forced
Mm-hmm.
me to kind of ignore fear and go anyway. Because
Mm.
I tend to go towards trouble where everybody else is running from it. So I got a dual thing going. So if I had to say something about that, it would be just trauma, not
Mm.
feeling worthy, not feeling good enough was probably right where I can start to say, and I identify that now was fear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can anybody connect with that in terms of the trauma, you know, creating fear in your life? What about you, Katherine?
Oh yeah, you saw me go
Yeah.
for that. Yeah, yeah. I was opposite Keli. I started out right out of the gate living in fear, and that brought on the unworthiness, and it has really held me back in a lot of my life.
Mm.
Until I had my spiritual awakening and I had this soul contract reading, that's when, here in my 60s, things shifted for me and I started to see my life in a different perspective. I lived in victim mode for most of my life, having abuse and trauma early on. And so, yeah, now I'm learning how to live and make choices not from a fear place,
Mm-hmm.
um, but with a totally different perspective. So, yeah, I'm glad for that. Very grateful because fear really held me back in a lot of areas. And I was
Mm,
actually, not to take up a lot of time, but I was actually really surprised that I hit a real low point in my life. And that's when I quit my job. I knew I had to make a change. And I used the metaphor the spiritual Mack truck ran over me, and I couldn't get up. And so my spirit team said, "This is time, and you're not letting go of the wheel, and now you have to." So I quit my job, I sold everything, left my family and friends, and came to Panama on my own. And
mm.
it's been a real journey of self discovery. And so now I'm overcoming that fear. So, yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. And we can't take up too much time. This is very easy. And so, yeah, you are free to use your time as you want to. But it's something about Panama, because I can tell you whenever I went over to Panama too, and I lived over there, a lot of fear, a lot of things were released. And that's exactly where my ancestors started showing up for me. I was calling them over there. So it's something about that wonderful place in Panama. Um, Goddess Esther, what do you think about fear as the messenger versus fear as a block? Because fear is healthy. We don't want for, I mean, it could be for protection. So, what do you
Mhm.
think about the two of those, the verses?
Yeah, I think fear is something that's super fascinating. And I love studying and discussing fear with people because it is a messenger, it is a tool, it's a storyteller for us. And every time we grow in our growth journey, fear grows alongside us. And I think often we think that, if we conquer fear in one iteration or one season of our life, then we're not going to experience it again. But it's a part of who we are, and it's just as important as any other kind of human experience. We're spiritual beings in these bodies, and we've come to have these very, human experiences. And I think fear is a very human experience. And as we navigate and grow, the way that fear learns to come and talk to us is going to be different because the language that we speak is different as we grow as well. So I find it always super fascinating. And when I'm doing my journaling practice, I start to notice the patterns of like, oh, okay, fear's showing up this way this time. It's not showing up the way it showed up last time. I already learned how to deal with it in that iteration, but now it's showing up in a way that I have never experienced before. And, it's another way of getting to know ourselves. So I think once we can recognize that, it allows us to surrender a little bit more softly to fear and allow it to speak to us and tell us, what is it that you want to show me right now?
I love that. I love that you said surrendering to fear because I've lived in fear most of my life very silently. And so now I feel like I'm surrendering to it. I was actually hiding it and covering up because I was really embarrassed that I would could be practicing as a full-blown social worker and still the fear that I would go to sleep at night with. And so yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Devet, so what do you think about fear that's unique to women? Our cultural fear, like some of this fear has come through, passed down through our our lineage,
Yeah,
and so
our cultural fears, those past traumas that we, didn't get healed after uh, certain parts of history chattel, being, slavery. Um, there was no social worker, or there wasn't a psychiatrist there to give them healthy living tools to how to live with this, and so it and it inherently gets into our DNA. That's how it's passed along. And um, DNA is not just DNA that we can put under a microscope. It's spiritual, you know.
Mm.
It has to be all. And so um, it's not just a woman's issue. I think for us, because of the female energy, that's just how we interpret fear
Mm-hmm.
through that energy. Um, but fear is a great, you know, when you call some business and they ask for you to do a survey at the end,
Yeah.
you know, it's feedback. And so that's how I look at fear. It's a feedback. Okay,
Wow.
well, wait a minute, hold on, let's tweak over here. What, why is this making me feel so uncomfortable right here? And so that's how I interpret it.
I appreciate that. I really do. It's feedback for us.
Yeah, it's
You know,
and it's positive feedback. It's even when it's the worst of the worst of the worst things that's happening to you. I mean, what are you saying to yourself while you're going through it? And that is what feedback is asking you to look in and say. What are you saying to yourself as you're going through whatever it is?
wow, thank you for that because, I come up with this show and I am out here talking about fear, but I'm doing it for myself. I want to learn more. I want to get the positive feedback. I want to, like Goddess SD said, just like not, but to use it, to lean into it, not run from it. But yeah, so yeah, that's really good. All right, Goddess Marni, you're up. So fear's relationship to intuition, being an intuitive, uh, how does that resonate?
Mm, that's a great question. Yeah, I would say it just personally, it's kept me from accepting my intuitive gifts because of fear of what society would think of me, because it's still a bit out there, right? Being intuitive and just having that gut feeling, even like that's just the simple, like mom gut feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
That um that society puts no value to that, right? They just disregard. Like you could go to a doctor and be like, I just don't feel right, and they disregard it. And I can say for most of my adult life until maybe 2-3 years ago, well, for all my life, I guess until maybe 2-3 years ago, fear stopped me from really like accepting the magic of the intuitive and allowing it to come in. And it was that fear of society and that fear of loss of relationships, maybe over becoming more intuitive, because if people don't understand it, they fear it. And so not only
Mm-hmm.
my fear, but then other people's fear will also cut off some of those relationships. And so, and fearing what could be lost, fearing the judgment of like what could, and the fear can put a full block on that. Like I can tell
Yeah.
you, there's like, if you have any fear going on in you, I mean, you can have some, because we all have that little fear and that little like um the good fear that's like, okay, I've got that like nervous like butterfly feeling kind of fear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
there's the like, I want to fight, freeze, or flight, right, kind of fear, where you're facing a tiger and you're like, this is real fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes your mind makes it a real fear when it's not even remotely,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so putting that block in between yourself and the intuitive messages, or just your intuitive self, it
Mm-hmm.
just, it like, I just picture this like wall, this like separating wall that's like, here's your intuitive gifts, and now this wall is just like blocking it, and this wall is all the fear you're allowing, all the piled up fear that you're allowing to speak to you, basically, and not in the way Goddess Esty was saying, in the good way of like receiving those positive feedbacks and messages, in the way of like, nope, I'm going to make you think you're not enough, and that
Yes.
this isn't enough, and you don't know what you're talking about, and you're not worthy, and you're making it all up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How does like this is for anyone. Like how does fear signal you in your body? when do you know that this is not just butterflies in your stomach? What does that feel like? Because some people don't really know how to connect to their body and when that comes up, because when you start to feel those sensations, and that's when you can actually do something about it. But I think people have to know, like, you know, connect to how does that show up in your body. I know for me, I can get like a stomach, like it's in my stomach, like a knot, a ball in my stomach. And it feels like fear and anxiety at the same time. It's just, I don't like it, but I have learned to ground myself and just kind of go breathe. That's what helps for me.
Yeah.
What comes up for anybody?
My stomach.
Yeah.
So
Mine too.
I think we all are like, yeah, yeah,
In the
yeah,
Yeah,
stomach?
for
yeah.
me,
Okay.
it's more here, like it's more in like my chest and like my heart area, but it
Mm,
it kind of rises from the stomach up.
mm,
And in the recent years, I've started to understand when it's my fear that I'm feeling, and then when I'm tapping into the collective fear or the fear of the people around me, and that I think is such an important
Mhm,
discernment piece to learn. Because so recently, I'll give an example. Recently, I put in my notice to leave my muggle job, as I call it. I'm leaving my principal job to be fully in my intuitive witchiness, which I'm very
mm.
excited about. And I don't have a complete clear plan for after June, and I feel okay about that. And I
Mm,
shared with all my teachers because I'm the principal, and I was sharing with my teachers, and the collective fear that they had for me when they asked me questions, what are you going to do after? And I was like, I haven't decided yet. And everyone was coming, and if you need a reference, and let me, I know this person. I was like, I'm okay. Like, I feel good with being in the unknown, but I could feel the tinglings of fear. And I was like, oh, this is interesting because it didn't feel like mine. But in previous years, I might have mistaken that for mine too, and then tapped into it more. And so I think it's super important to, yeah, learn where do you feel it for you, and then where do you
mm-hmm.
feel it for other people as well.
Golly, that's so important. It really, really is, because I just was reading something about you're actually taking on the fear of someone else, the collective that's around you. And because I'm learning, like, me and Keli, we kind of share sentiments after this spiritual awakening about things. So I didn't know a lot of things. And so now, knowing that we're all energy, it makes sense how we can kind of pick up on like the collective people around you when you're getting ready to make a move and they're like scared for themselves, actually.
mhm,
And then they project that onto you, and then you get scared. You know, you have some fear. And I really appreciate you highlighting that. That's important, because I just, my guides have been telling me about collective fear and being aware that it may not even be your fear. How does anybody resonate with that? Like, Keli, what do you feel about, I know we share so much, but what do you feel about fear as a collective, picking up someone else's bag of fears?
That's interesting because I just last week I was talking to somebody and they actually said when I was sharing about the feeling in my stomach, like really high in my gut and
Mm-hmm.
my heart, the way it flutters, and just my thought process. Just recently, I started questioning, what is that feeling? Why do I feel this way?
Mm-hmm.
And then I go through this kind of list. Okay, well, this is this, and this is this, and I'm okay, and da 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 da, and all the other
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And then, okay, well, it's not me, but why do I feel this way? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I can't attach it to anything. So I sit in it. And then a day or two will go by and it won't move. It's still there. 3 days go by and I'll get a call from either a family member or somebody that's going through something. But I
Mm.
still wasn't aware enough to know that that was that, or that could have been that, or maybe there was a connection there. I'm just arriving to ask those questions now. Wasn't asking them before. I thought it was just me. But that's where my fear, it arises right here first. And then I get almost nervous, my body on the inside. You won't see me shaking, but on the inside, I'm shaking.
Mm-hmm.
What tools are you using though now to help you to work through the fear when it does come up? Like what are you doing for yourself?
Talking to myself, assuring myself, encouraging myself. This is not that, this is this. No, you're not. You're going to go anyway. Very similar to how I trained myself in policing. I can't run. I can't turn around and go in the opposite direction. I have to go forward. So you just kind of barrel ahead. Um, Now is different. Of course, it's different because I'm living a different life. But now I'm talking to myself. I'm assuring myself that I am okay and I'm going to be okay no matter what. That's what I'm
I
doing now.
Yes, yes. And, if you are just joining us here at the Fear to Freedom Project, we are talking about overcoming fear. And it's just, this is a great conversation. And I think we need to continue to have the conversation because everyone, we share this sentiment. We share the fact that we are living in fear and that it holds us back. All of us, this is all common to all of us right here. And we are here in our majesty with all of our superpowers, and we still, are addressing it. So, Goddess Esty, I like what she said, about um just understanding it, being connected to it, like the vet said, it being like a tool for us, some feedback. So I really like that. The second part of this roundtable, we're going to talk about the origins of our fears, like where they come from. And yeah, so I can just tell you that, and this is the truth, and you guys can chime in. And I definitely want to hear Devet, chime in on this because we have conversations about it. But a lot of my fear stems from the church, and where I was just thought, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to measure up on all of these rules and these laws that God has set forth. So I just thought, geez, this guy's going to be up here, like, really, like, I don't know, not doing the things that I want to do because, I'm breaking a law. So I was really scared a lot. And about that, because I did not want to upset God. I didn't want to do anything that would make God not like me. And the way that you were taught is like, that's a sin and you can't do these things. And most of that stuff is like everybody's doing those things. Like then we're just sinning all day 24/7. So I just looked at it as God is just up there pissed at all of us. And we're not yeah. So, you know, I want the vet to kind of talk about that because she has a very unique connection and perspective because she is between two worlds. She is that bridge walker, and she allows me to see what some of this, the scriptures say. She looks at it, she puts it in like this metaphysical term. So it really has helped me a lot. Can you talk about that?
Well, the whole book is a psychological book. The Bible is the greatest psychological book ever written. And really, what the church is afraid of is if you know this, if you understand that there's only one character, centralized character in the book, and that's you, and that everything. So it's saying that you create all things within your own within your own universe. But if we teach like that, we are teaching
Mm,
responsibility, and you can't make someone follow you if they have this responsibility, this self-respect, this self-responsibility. And I think that's the disconnect with how it's being taught, because the Bible and science really just co cohabitate. They are lining up and they say the same thing. It's just we always have to create some barrier so that we can have a misunderstanding, which is what? Nothing but fear. And that fear comes in all forms in the church. Um, I hope I'm answering that for you. You know,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
it's repulsive to me because I know that we give people license to be slaves, not license to be free. And free
Mm.
thought, our ability to choose for ourselves, our ability to have responsibility for ourselves should not be taken from anyone. You know, if we had
Mm.
more responsibility about our own selves, then we would love people much differently, you know?
Mm. Yes, I love that. What do you think, Kat? We're like, who? Yes, let's give it to her. I appreciate that. I mean, it really helps a lot. I told you because all of my fears started from the church. Uh, where does anybody else kind of resonate with the church, or where did fear come from for you?
Well, it's not so much about the church for me, but I think just society in general, there's a lot of fear. It's fear mongering,
Mm.
and they want, and I believe, and this is going to be out there, but I believe that we are being kept in fear because there's only two states, fear and love.
Right.
That's right.
And if we're in fear,
Yeah.
then we can be controlled and
Right.
we can be directed and we can be pushed down. And that's what my belief is. This ascension process is about moving from fear to love. And so the struggles and the hard times that we've had, how we
Goddess
feel
Esty,
less
love that.
than,
Sorry.
yeah,
Goddess
no,
Esty did like a little dance like
yeah,
that. That's that
yeah,
with her.
that's
Go
where
ahead.
we're going. And if people don't know what the ascension is, because I used to think, oh my gosh, we're going to fly up to, vibration, higher vibration, another planet. No, really, ascending is just letting go of what no longer serves you and growing and evolving into something that's more love based. And so you drop the fear base. And that's what's happening on the planet right now. All of us are helping the collective. And when you were talking about not feeling fear that's not your own, it's because we're empathic. A lot of us are empathic and we're feeling that. And we're also, as we heal ourselves through this fear, we're not only healing ourselves, we're healing our generations, our future and our past generations. We're healing past lives and we're healing the collective. So the people that are still what they call still asleep, they're not everybody's waking up now more and more, but people that aren't aware and aren't as at a conscious level, we're helping them and we're kind of their light so that when they do start to wake up and they're confused and there's going to be probably a lot more fear, when they start to wake up and they have this fear, they're going to need people to lead them into, and they'll look at us, and see that we're, living a different life. And how did we do that? So I think we're all here. And thank you for doing this roundtable today, Deborah, because everybody's going to need to see this. It's so important right now. And you're right, there's a lot of chaos that's going on. And it's my belief that things have to get worse before they get better. So everything has to blow up. You talk about where did fear come from in my life. When you're abused as a kid, between, till the age of 7, you're building your foundation of beliefs and you don't have the coping skills, you don't have the cognitive skills to deal with it. And, your parents are supposed to be there to protect you and love you. And so you think that you've done something bad. Now you're looking at yourself as that bad person. And so when you build that foundation of belief on, I did something wrong, I'm bad, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy and deserving. So when you do that, you come to my age in my 60s and it's like, I was just barreling through. And Keli, like you and you too, Deborah, you were saying you didn't really show it. Neither did I. I was afraid to show it. That was weakness. And so I
Yeah.
just put my head down and I just barreled through whatever I had to barrel through. And I didn't want to be in my body. I didn't feel comfortable in my body. And so
Mm.
everything was in my head. And to this day, I overanalyze. And I try and feel like I'm supposed to feel in my head. And Esty, to speak to what you were saying as far as feeling, this is a new skill that I've just acquired. And it's about looking and feeling what it's like to be in my body and where that fear sits. And it's in my solar plexus, but sometimes I feel that fear or the ache in my heart, or my throat will swell up. So it's really been interesting for me, 6 decades into this, to be learning or relearning
Mhm.
um, a lot of basic skills. So yeah, and I think, going back to the foundation of beliefs, I think that society, our world is on a shaky, it's built on a shaky foundation, and it was just getting so far out of whack that things do have to blow up. Because let's face it, we all sit in our comfort zones, and they might not be comfortable, but at least we know how to deal with things in that
Mhm.
zone. And so that's why things, a lot of times, you get the spiritual Mack trucks that run over you because you're not listening to the nudges and the 2x4s. And so something has to change, and it has to be painful. But you know what that polarity, this is a world of polarity, and you know what that polarity is. Because if you don't know what fear is, you would never recognize love. You have to feel one to
Right.
recognize the other.
That's true. That's beautiful. And one of the I was looking at and I think Goddess Marty Esty talked about it, like hiding your the sacred traditions, our cultural traditions, and hiding them because you're afraid to be visible with all of the spiritual things, all of the ancient wisdom. How does that resonate with you, Marni or Esty? Like, and I know you talked about it, Marni. Excuse me.
Yeah, it resonates deeply. There was one thing I wanted to say about what Goddess Katherine said too. Is something else I just recently read was like how she was talking about society, and something else is like when we say to someone like I'm worried, we're putting our fears. When you're like I'm worried about your health, I'm worried about
Yes,
your
we
relationship, I'm
do
worried
it.
about your
Yes.
job, bestie, right? Like I'm worried about what you're going to do in the future. We're actually putting our energy of our fear right onto that person as well. So it's something else to think of. Is it was a big mindset shift for me because I've done it. I'm like, oh, I'm worried about my kids like not gaining weight or whatever. And as soon as we put that, we're putting our fear onto them. So just changing that into like, I know you're empowered to do this. How are you
Mhm.
feeling? Like
Mhm.
just switching the wording a little bit. Is something else I just wanted to add into there too. It was a great mindset when I saw that and was reading it. I was like, oh my gosh, we do that all the time. Like I'm
Yeah.
worried about weather. I'm worried about like we just put worry, which is fear, into the world constantly, right?
Mhm.
Well,
Um,
words become things,
exactly.
right? So you got to pick the good ones.
We gotta pick the good ones. Um,
Exactly.
and yes, to your question, Goddess, it was my dad's mom, so I didn't know her that well, but she read tea leaves, she read palms, she read cards, she did all those things. But my grandfather on my dad's side, my dad's dad was very abusive. So he was physically abusive, mentally abusive, and then there was like multiple kids in there too. And so the storyline that got passed through was that she was crazy, right? And so
Mm.
my aunt, who's from this grandmother of mine as well, was, and I never met her, I've been connecting with her through the ancestor work, but
Mhm.
my aunt went along this path too. And so she used essential oils like 50 years ago to heal things. Like she went,
Mm.
she was ahead
Wow.
of her time, is what I always said. I was like, she was like, now essential oils are so commonplace, doctors recommend them, right? But like
Mm.
she was using them forever ago to heal things and using plant medicine. And so she went that path, but she was always seen as that like black sheep, that one that's like a little bit crazy. That's how it was talked about in our household. And so like to connect into like our ancestral gifts, like they're there and we all have them. If we go back, all of our ancestors at one point in time we're just using medicine, like using plants as medicine, using, you know, everything, and reading the stars and reading, like we were so connected into everything. And then, you know, the masculine took over and we cut off all of that. And like Katherine was saying, that we went into fear instead of love, right? And by going there, we cut off our ancestors too. We really much like, we cut off our gifts, we cut off our ancestors, all in like one fell swoop kind of thing. We were like, we're just not going to connect to any of this because this is crazy. Because this is the black sheep. These are the people that like, that they're telling a lie. They can't possibly know any of these things. Or my aunt healed cancer through plant medicine and essential oils and all this, and she would hold, like she would take food and hold it to her body and be like, this is what my body needs. And she could feel that vibration of like, yes, this is what my body needs right now. And that's how she would shop in a grocery store, right?
Wow.
And my family, like she was crazy. No, there's no way she had cancer in the first place. Like she couldn't have healed it. Like it was such
what?
It was such a like societal. And I mean, this was 20, I'm like, oh yeah, 20, 25 years ago ish that they were talking like this, but still like, they were like, well, she can't tell possibly what her body needs. Like we're so cut off, and that she couldn't possibly heal on her own without medicine that's like really poison. Right? Like without going and doing chemo and radiation. And not saying that there's not a place for that, because there's a reason we've come so far. But there's also a place to be in our bodies and really we know what we need if we can connect into that deep place in us, right? And connect into that ancestral lineage of like, how can you also help support me in my healing, right? And help me come over this fear of like this. But I know growing up I had this fear of doing anything that any of my aunts or my grandmother had done. Like I don't want to touch any of that because it's crazy.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And plus, you could have had a past life where you were persecuted for that.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what I found with the soul contract readings. You know, your karma, you bring through those unresolved things. So it's our karma, it's past lives, ancestors, the collective.
It's a lot.
We are screwed. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit about that and the way that society has cultivated this like false sense of security for us as a people. And, you know, it is, I think, having so much grace for our former selves who were in it and who were trusting that. And because like the amount of cognitive dissonance that comes when you recognize that you are being violated almost, because we're, you know, as Devette said, we are being kind of put into a place of slavery, and most people don't know that. And to then recognize that, it feels so violating, and it feels so, you know, and then to then be given this burden of so much responsibility feels so exhausting. Like, how can I do that? You know, and it's like, and then it's almost like you feel like you're literally starting from scratch. So it's like the fear of stepping out of the fear sometimes is more, can be so much pressure that it's like, you know, it's no wonder that it takes people so long to get there, because it is a battle. It's a spiritual battle. And so I think really helping people start to deconstruct, you know, even their desires, because our desires are then created to help us cultivate this false sense of security still. So it's like, even when we get out, we start to, okay, well, I really want the big house to make me feel like I've made it. And it's like, but that's not it. That's not really the thing that's going to keep you safe, you know, like that, you know, like what we're seeing with what's happening in LA, your big house can burn down, and like, that's not what freedom is either. So it's like, again, that's why I'm saying like the fear always changes, right? Because it's like, you think you've figured it out, and then it's like, no, I'm going to find you over here. And it's like, it's just, I don't know where I'm going with it right now, but I'm just like, I feel very, this is so it's medicine. This is so important that we're
Mhm.
sharing this in the way that we're sharing it. And I'm calling in, and I hope we're all calling in that, like, as we are, things are kind of breaking down as a societal structure, that we do get back to those traditional ways of teaching our children.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have some friends who they use their oracle cards with their babies, like when they're making decisions, and like bringing them into that decision making and helping them have autonomy and helping them start to understand, what is this? Is your solar plexus? Okay, that, what does that mean? And so it's like, I think, yeah, it's just so powerful. So I'm feeling like, ooh.
Yes. Yeah. I'm feeling everything that you're feeling, everything that you all are saying. I just think about even when I worked in the school system and how, like, I guess cultural displacement. I think about when people have worked in an international school and kids coming from, and parents coming from a totally different culture, and they're just thrust right into our culture. And it's not like the American culture is very forgiving. Okay. We are like, you do it our way or you suck. And so, or,
Right.
yeah, and so I think about all of the young kids that and the parents that we served in the school system that were impacted by fear because of their relocation, possibly. So, yeah. Okay, I want to ask each of you, and this can be really quickly. Um, Actually, we've already talked about this. So, what I want to do now is I want us to think about the fears that we just talked about. Think about the fears that just resonated with us. And I'd like to write them down so that we can release them. And Goddess Marni is going to lead us in a fear release activity. And so, if you are listening, just grab a piece of paper and a pen so that you can take part in this. Thank you, Goddess Marni.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's just take a minute and write down your fear on a piece of paper, however you want to word it, and have it be a piece of paper you're okay to like then burn. So don't have it on the back of like something you need. So
Okay.
just start there
Okay.
and take a minute.
Okay. And I hope you guys out there are just, in the audience, that you are taking this activity seriously. We are releasing fear. We have to. We have to. It starts with a practice, an activity, a ritual, something that you can do to acknowledge that you no longer need to be burdened with this fear. So,
Is
thank
there
you.
anyone that wants to voice? Because also voicing our fear has a lot of power. Like it's the start of letting it go. Is there anyone in our collective right now that wants to voice their fear at all?
I'm happy to share
I
mine.
Okay, good. Okay.
Um, my fear is that I won't be able to thrive if I'm in my soul purpose work only, and that I won't feel safe
Mm,
in my body if I'm not working 9 to 5, having a consistent income.
mm.
Those are my fears.
Thank you for that. That's brave. Thank you.
Right.
Guys, Deborah, did you want to share yours?
Yeah, I've just always had a fear of being forgotten and being unloved.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just have this fear that someone's gonna forget that I exist, um and just a fear of being like abandoned and just left out there like I
Mm.
don't matter.
Yes. Thank you. We see you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I echo that. My thing is about not fulfilling my soul's purpose. I have this real drive to fulfill my soul's purpose, to be an inspiration and encouragement and support to others that have gone through trauma and have had, darkness in their life as well. So yeah, it's about not making a difference in this world. And I feel a sense of urgency at my age, so yeah.
Thank you, Goddess Katherine.
Thank you.
Goddess Keli or Devette, do either of you want to share?
Yeah, I have a fear that I'm releasing of not being heard. Speaking up for me. I am going through a situation, and there were so many opportunities that gave me feedback to speak up for myself, and I didn't listen. But that's a part of us turning off our alarm, which is a part of the control of the matrix to make us dull our senses so that we don't listen to our own voice and don't think that our our voice is important. And so first I have to address that inside of myself. I have to understand and know that my voice is important, so that then the fear is easily the teacher, and it's not looked on as something bad. You came to teach me that this time I need to use my voice differently. Okay, here I go. You know? So
Yeah. Oh, thank you,
I
Goddess.
like that.
Thank you. Thank you.
For
Goddess
me,
Keli?
it would be what's the next? Where am I stepping into? What does that look like? And can it adequately provide for me? So,
Well, I have those same fears. I just need to add all of that to my list too,
It's
because
all
it's like,
connected.
That's
See?
what I'm doing. I'm writing.
I know, and
yeah,
as we each burn it, we all have each other's energy too. So we're all burning off each other's fears too. So we're
okay,
good.
good.
one of the things I
Alright.
wanted to point out, and I've never heard it before, that it shows up in various iterations. And I
I'm
think
sorry.
she said that fear shows up in various iterations, like it shows up differently. And
mhm.
so for me, I wrote that down because I'm like, oh, it does. You mean
Right, right.
it can show up differently? Like, so I would be very interested in this platform or any platform in what those iterations, the different kinds of iterations, how it can possibly show up so that people can start to recognize it. Because I think if we know, we can recognize it. Oh, I heard so and so said that fear shows up like this. And then sometimes fear shows up like that. It doesn't show up the same. And thank you for opening my eyes to that. I didn't know that it changes avatars.
well, we're gonna have to have a round table about that.
Yeah.
Fear in all of its iterations.
Right?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. My fear is really that my true authentic self is not enough, that I'm not enough. So
Yeah.
so yes, even just voicing your fears, that's like the first step. It's like that, like just acknowledging it, right? And so we're gonna do a collective like verbal release. So I will read a piece, and then we can all repeat it back. If you're watching this, just you can just repeat it back with us as well. So when I will say together we speak, and then I don't know if everyone has their notes from what we say, but if you don't, I'll just say it, and then you guys can just repeat it after me as well.
Okay.
So the first part is we stand in the presence of our ancestors, those who carried their fears so we could stand here today. As we hold these papers with our written fears, feel their presence gathering around us, and together we speak. So this is where you can repeat after me. So by the strength of those who came before,
By the strength of those who came before,
by the wisdom in my bones,
by the wisdom in my bones,
by the fire of my spirit awakening,
by the fire of my spirit awakening,
I release this fear that no longer serves me.
I
release
release this
this
fear
that
that
no
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 longer
longer
serves.
And you can rip it, you can burn it. If you're burning it, make sure you're safely burning it. We are releasing.
Yes.
And we're releasing the collective. As you watch this, we're releasing your fears as well, because they're all of our fears. And you can then after you've ripped it or burned it, repeat after me this next part. I am not my fear.
I
I
am
am
not
not
my
my
fear.
my fear.
I am my ancestors' boldest dreams.
I
I
I
am
am
my
my
ancestors'
ancestors'
boldest
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 dreams.
dreams.
I am their prayers answered.
I
I am their
Prayers
prayers answered.
answered.
Yes.
And I'm gonna read off 3 affirmations as well that we can repeat back. That just you can start your day with these. You can say these when you're like in a big fear moment, just to have them kind of in my phone is when I often have my affirmations. So if I'm in that
Yeah.
moment, I can just like swipe to an affirmation that'll help me through it, right? So
Even
there's
Marni, can I add something with the
Yes, please.
affirmations? Can we do some somatic sealing it with a shimmy? So as we're
Yes.
perfect. I like to seal things with a shimmy. So as we do them.
I
I
love it. I
I got to
love it.
get my
Thank you, goddess.
WD-40 out.
I know, girl. Yes.
thank you, Goddess Esther. Yes, let's.
Yes.
So
Got it.
my bloodline flows with courage.
My
My
bloodline
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 flows
flows
with
with
flows with
courage.
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 What once broke my ancestors now builds my strength.
What
What once
once
What
broke my
broke
broke my
my
ancestors
Now
ancestors
ancestors
now
builds,
now
builds
builds
my
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 strength.
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 And the second one is I claim my divine power to create.
I
I
I
claim
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 My
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 divine
divine
power
power
to
power
to
create.
create.
to create.
Yes.
Fear dissolves in the light of my purpose.
Mm.
Fear
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 dissolves
dissolves
in
Dissolves
the
in
in
the
in
the
the
light
light
of
light
of
my
my
of
purpose.
my
purpose.
purpose.
And the third one is through my ancestors' love,
Through my
My
through my
ancestors'
ancestors'
love,
ancestors'
love.
love.
I walk in wisdom.
I
I
I
walk
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 in
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 wisdom.
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 My path is clear.
My
My
path
My
path
is
is
path is
clear.
clear.
My spirit is free. And let's do a big shimmy on this one.
my
My
spirit.
Spirit
spirit
is
is
free.
free.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for
Thank
yes,
you.
yes. Let's shimmy. Let's just release those fears. Thank you, Goddess Esty, for the shimmy.
Yeah.
That just shook something in me. Yes, I feel that. Thank you.
Sealed
That
it.
was so
Sealed it with the shimmy. I love it.
I mean, she sealed it with the shimmy. That's what I'm talking about. This is the medicine that everyone needs today. Thank you so much. And you know what? I'm so excited about this. And I feel the energy of, and just the information for me, like Kels just said, like, oh, fear shows up in all of these iterations, it looks like something else, but at the bottom, at the end of the day, it's fear, right? So, oh man, I appreciate
God,
that. We are
Goddess Marni, can you please send us those that that release list? That was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've done release things multiple times, but I've never done it in that way, and it was so powerful. So I would love if you could share that with us.
Yeah, this is actually Goddess Deborah's download. I'm just her vessel.
Amazing. Deborah, Goddess Deborah, that is potent. And it came through very potently through you, Marni. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank
oh,
you. I'm
yes,
sure
it
Goddess
did.
Deborah, if you have show notes, make sure you put it in those show notes.
I will put it in the show notes and absolutely, and I will make sure that I send it to you. So before we kind of get out of here, because I want to be respectful of time, I want to talk about some transformational tools for people to use that that will help them in fear. And so one of the what's going on with Goddess Deborah right now, she is doing shadow work. Lord have mercy. What in the world? Nobody told me that it was going to be all of this shadow stuff coming up in the middle of the night, waking you up. Who knew? So, yeah, this is a pretty big one for me. it is helping me to discover the hidden parts of me, the hidden stuff that's been there. And it's not always like palatable and pleasing, and it just doesn't feel good. I'm going to be honest, but at the end of the day, I am releasing. And I remember being up on the mountain. We were at the Goddess Manifesting retreat up in Boone this past weekend, and yeah, through shadow work, I, was awakened in the middle of the night and up there, and I was trying to, all of these memories of me as a little girl trying to figure out, why someone would be trying to touch me, someone that I knew, and all of it just kept flooding my head while I was up there. And I was getting up in the middle of the night, and I was just not happy about that. I was like, I thought that I dealt with this, and once you discover something doesn't mean that you dealt with it. And it's like, no, you haven't dealt with it. So in any event, I was able to release it and be in front of 21 women and the divine leader who cradled me like a baby in her arms and just held me because I was so ashamed to say that I was ashamed. And they were, said to me, like, you're carrying someone else's shame. You're carrying someone else's bags. This is the shame of your perpetrators, not you. You were shameless and blameless as a child being, traumatized and victimized. So shadow work has been one that has been very dear for me, and I'm doing it. So what transformational tools can we leave with the audience that's working for you?
Can I just say, shadow work is hard. Shadow work is hard, but it's necessary. And for me, it was the soul contract reading. I've done shadow work with shamans. I've done so many things. And until I was able to, maybe it's because I'm in my head so much and I analyze or overanalyze. But when I could look at the my soul contract as a choice that I made, this is the life that I came in to live. And so everything that's happened to me is something that I created. And all the players are not there to be mean to me necessarily. What they're there to do is they're an opportunity for me to learn my lesson. Mm-hmm. And families are our greatest teachers. They're our greatest, yeah, right? They're our greatest triggers, but they're our greatest teachers. And so that got me out of the victimhood, out of the fear. And it's been such a life-changing, I call it a tool, but it's a life-changing process that I've been constantly going through since I had it. And it's something that, to me, it's like we have blinders on. And so when you know that you're here, you know what your karma is, you know what your talents are, and you know what your life purpose is. And your talents and your gifts are to help you get through the karma and also to share with the world, because we're here ultimately to share our gifts with the world. We're not here to go to the job and, make the money and get the house and have the kid. No, we are all here to evolve and grow and ultimately to help each other. So it was like a no-brainer for me to see what my karma was, to see how I can, because our bodies heal themselves. And as a nurse, I'm not getting on that platform or soapbox about the pharmaceuticals, but we can heal ourselves, and our ancestors did that. And so this is kind of bringing us back in a way, but helping us to move forward. So it's given me clarity and certainty and a direction. So I know what I'm about, and I know why I'm getting triggered. So I can pause now, and I can not react, but I can respond. Yeah. So it's been huge for me, and it's been great to see with my clients, just some little thing. It's so interesting, just a little thing that I would say would just make so much of an impact to them. So yeah, that's been a really good tool because I've tried everything. So
I feel you. Excuse me.
For me, it was, it's funny, I never even had heard of soul contracts, Katherine, until like a week ago. So I'm going to be looking you up because I'm like, oh my God. I've done, like, I'm trained in Ayurveda. So I've done like Vedic astrology, which is kind of similar, right? You got your Dharma coming through in that way too. But so I'll be connecting with you. But for me, it was really women's circles. Like there was two pieces to it. So finding, I did a women's circle facilitator training three or 4 years ago now, and that was the first time I felt safe enough to express my deepest fears, which came alongside my deepest desires. So it was like my fears covered up all these deep desires I didn't even know I had. Like it was like how you guys were, a couple of you were talking about like spiritual awakenings. It was not, I had a spiritual awakening too, but it was that moment of like, oh wait, these two live together, but they shouldn't. Like we need to unbury these two. My fears and my desires do not belong together.
Right.
I need to have this. And it was in women's circle, like very, and I will preface with this because there are not great women's circles out there. There are ones that just, someone might just be like, and they might not have any training and they might still be the best women's circle. So I'm not saying you have to have training, but you need to find the one you connect to, because I have been to ones where it's just like women chanting at the moon, which can be powerful, but if that's not what you're looking for to like release and heal, it's not quite the same. So really finding one that has a safe container and creates the masculine container so the feminine can really like express and flow through. It's so important. And every time I like get into like, I'm going through something really big right now, and it wasn't till today. I've been doing women's circles. I've been leading women's circles for almost 4 years now. And it wasn't until today that I was like, oh, I need to reach out to not the one I lead. I need to reach out to the one I belong to. And we haven't done a circle in a while, but I just posted a message to them, and their support and love coming back. I was like, right. They held me. They saw me. They heard me.
Yes.
Right. This is what a women's circle specifically can really do. We can really have that compassion and empathy coming through and allow ourselves to have the fear. And like all of us did, oh yeah, I feel that fear too. Like we have that all on such deep levels that we connect in a different way than if there was men in there too. And the other piece that I really, really found is in Ayurveda, it's called dinacharya, and it's your morning routine. So like there's pieces of it that are like tongue scrape, like scrape your tongue and get the gunk off from what's releasing. So there's the physical pieces, but then there's also the like meditation and yoga and like and I add in my oracle card drawings and stuff. And anytime I find if I don't do even a shortened version of that practice and like grounding is part of it and everything, that's when the fear like overrides my daily instead of it being the message, the good messages. So those
that makes so much sense. Building support communities is a supportive community is just priceless. It's just priceless. That's what I feel right here with us, this collective right here. This is a supportive community that I really appreciate. So that is priceless. Thank you for that. Yeah. Anyone else using any transformational tools? Goddess Esther?
Mine kind of align a lot with Goddess Marni's. As when I first moved to Thailand, I started journaling again, and I started listening to The Artist's Way. And I was walking to work, and I didn't feel safe to actually properly handwrite my journals because there was like a disconnect between my inner voice and myself, and I wasn't really in a space to fully hear myself and fully, I didn't trust my words that I was putting on the page. So I started to voice note myself instead for the morning pages. And it was such a powerful tool. And then over time, I did start to get back to my actual truth on the page. And so really learning how to uncensor myself was such a powerful practice. And I still do it today. And it's a part of my morning routine. Even if I can't do the full 3 pages, as Julia Cameron shares, even just writing like one truthful sentence is super powerful, and like showing up and being honest with yourself every day.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the oracles is
Yeah.
my second piece, like that I added to my practice in the last couple of years, that I think has just even compounded it more and helped with me trusting my intuition, because I will journal first, and then usually the card that I pull is exactly right on track,
Yeah.
or it helps to unblock something that was in my subconscious that I wasn't ready to face. And then I have a second round of journaling that's like, okay, boom, there we go. Like, so it's like those two things have been such a powerful, including my meditation practice too. But I think those two things have been, for me over the last decade, just the most transformational, and I use with my clients as well. So I'm so grateful for those tools.
Thank you. Devette and Kels, what are you guys using?
Well,
Go ahead.
okay. For me, I've just been allowing what has been tremendously helpful as I have begun this walk since really 2023. Yeah, 2023. Um, I don't know how I could have gotten through the awakening and the transformation starting to happen and the responsibility of my own experiences. I don't know if I could have weathered through that or did what I would have normally done, put my head down, barrel through it anyway. No, no. If it was not for Devette, if it was not for Deborah, if it was not for the contacts, connections, resources, things that they shared with me, that gave me traction. Outside of that, I would have been a ball tire on an ice, slippery slope going down the mountain. Period.
Right.
That's where I would have been. And so I am grateful beyond measure to have had that happen to me and have people such as the ones I stated there, but not just there,
Yeah.
willing to open up and be authentically transparent and share resources. Why are we holding back from people?
Yeah.
Why
Yes.
are we holding resources from people?
Fear.
Why do we
Fear.
feel like if I give them this, well, I don't know what goes on in people's heads, but why are we holding resources back from people when we can just simply share? What we
Yes.
give them, whether they use it or not, is another story. But when you're desperate and you don't know where to go, somebody saying, hey, or sending you a clip, 30 seconds. I can tell you in the past year, 30 seconds saved my life. A 30-second reel, a 30-second video, a 15-second video, a clip introduced me to somebody else that's in this way, that's part of the collective, introduced me to someone else, and just, I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
That's what got me to this point, and that's obviously what Source knows, because that's how I am able to connect and understand. And that whole responsibility piece messed me up, because I'm like, I'm responsible for this? Me?
I know.
What? Like freaking out. Like I can't, and mad
Yeah.
because that's the answer. Like I'm upset. What do you mean?
Right.
Yeah. That's
And
me.
then to get to a point where I understand that everything I thought I knew, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to come down from what you think you know. It's hard to come down from what you have been taught. It's hard to come down and not only I be aware, but accept the responsibility that I got some stuff that I need to change. Me? Not that I was high and mighty and none of that stuff, but it just messes with you because now you're responsible. And now you got to start to deprogram all of this stuff that you thought was okay. That deprogramming is the work. Well, yeah, sometimes it can feel worse than surgery under a knife. And I've been under that knife a lot of times.
Right, right. That's like what Goddess Esther
This
was
is
saying.
without
Like,
anesthesia.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, I like
They
that.
ain't put us to sleep, did they?
Right.
We ain't
Without-
getting no numbing cream at all. It's
None.
like what Goddess Esther was talking about, like being fearful to step out of the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, being afraid to step right, like, because now when you do that, you need to do the work, right? If you say you want to step out of the fear, you need to do some work. And yeah, I feel you, sister. I'm right there with you. Come on, Devat, take us home. What do you use?
Well, let's give them some I want to give some practicality. There are some things that we can do when, first of all, we have to condition ourselves to divorce fear fast. Fear is just our belief or unbelief in the source that gives us life, that is our source, that is the all that is. And so when we are operating in that fear, we're actually saying that the all that is cannot take care of me, and that isn't true. So first of all, let's divorce fear fast. That's the first thing. The second thing is develop you a word, a mantra when you are doing fear, or when fear comes upon you and you don't have anything to do or don't have anything to say. Do this. Have one word that just gives that fear or takes that fear out of all of your cellular memory. So for instance, my word is clear, 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 clear. And what that does is it cleans my cellular memory that's attached to that fear that I have no idea came from. It could have been a past life. It also could be a future life that I'm affecting. So, when you can clear, center yourself. And the last thing that's really practical for everybody to do is meditation. I don't care if it's 2 minutes a day in the morning, meditate. Muse on those things that are good, those things that are lovely, those things that are kind about yourself. Be the first one to give yourself the first compliment of the day. So those are practical things that anybody can do in the midst of all of the fear, no matter what they're going through, no matter what the fear feels, tastes, or sounds like. You can do these things. You can center yourself and say clear, 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 or whatever your word is. You can meditate 2 minutes, 3 minutes a day, 5 minutes in the morning. You can also divorce fear fast. Those are just simple things that we can do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. DFF, divorce fear fast.
I love
Choose
that.
a word.
I like that.
DFF.
Yeah.
I mean,
DFF.
this is what we are talking about today, y'all. This is really, really helpful. And I hope that if you are watching this roundtable, this virtual roundtable, it's no accident.
That's right.
You're supposed to be here.
That's right.
And so these are very good practical transformational tools that will help you. It's just the small steps, guys. It's not even, you see us up here in all of our, goddess majesty and giving all of our superpowers and all of our medicine, but we're still being honest and about our fears. So they don't go away, If you are just joining us, rewind it and go back to what Goddess Esther said and Goddess Devet said about being a friend of it, learning from it, getting good feedback from fear. So we don't want to just write fear off. That's the first thing I remember when I started this channel. I was like, fear ain't real. We ain't dealing with fear. And then it was like, oh, it's still here. So, okay, I just have to have a different point of view of fear. And I also have to look at fear and say, like, I know why you're here, and you served me for protection in this life or as this young child. But right now, I don't need you anymore to be here. So that's kind of what I'm doing in the house over here. I'm talking to everybody and anybody, whoever's listening. I'm talking. I
Yeah.
mean, angel guides, spirit guides, God, mother, father, the animals, the trees. I'm talking to everybody that's listening that could give me some wisdom, that
Yeah.
could help me in this human experience. Because, we were talking about, like, we chose to be here and all of this ascension is coming up. And, that's another roundtable. But, I'm like, what do you mean I chose to be here? Like, and all of this whole, like, excuse me, this maze, this labyrinth that we're going through and trying to figure out clues and pick them up. I just want us to I want to be on the committee to kind of change some of this.
Right.
The new life committee, I said, I want to talk to God and say, I want to figure out how we can do it a different way. This is me talking to, God consciousness, saying, hey, I want to figure this one out. But
Can
yeah,
I
so
just jump in, Deborah, I just
yeah,
thought,
jump in.
just another tip would be to breathe, because I know
Yeah.
when I get in fear,
Oh, yeah.
I don't breathe, or I shallow breathe. So when you're in fear, breathe and just take a couple of minutes and just breathe in and out slow. You can do box breathing. There's all sorts of breath work. You can look online or whatever, but
Yeah.
that's huge for me. And I didn't realize, again, not in my body, how much we don't breathe and we hold our breath. And so, be aware of your breath. And the other thing, people sometimes resist meditation because they say they can't quiet their mind. Well, I'm right there with you. And you don't have to be quiet. Just think of those thoughts that come in, acknowledge them and let them go. Don't attach to them. Okay. They're going to come in. Oh, what do I have to make for dinner? Oh, I got to get the kids clothes. Yeah. Just let them go and don't beat yourself up for it. And that's a huge one for me, is to not beat yourself up.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've got that critical voice going on. It's like a tape recorder. And I tell it to shut up, and I've named it, I name it and I tell it, okay, enough. And I heard you. Thank you for your input, but I don't need that anymore. And the last thing I want to say is, when you were talking about a mantra, I use I am safe, because I find that with fear, at the core, I don't feel safe
Yeah.
for whatever reason. And it doesn't have to be physically not feeling safe, but I don't feel safe. And
Right.
so when I start to feel that fear, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. And I use that a lot as I'm breathing. It's, I'm safe, I'm okay. There's no lions, tigers, and bears that are going to get me. Okay.
Right.
That was the
Right.
ancestors. They needed it. We don't anymore. Thank you for your help. But yeah,
Yes.
move along.
Yeah.
That's great, Goddess Katherine. Woo! I love that.
Katherine, that is
Yes.
so good.
Got
That is,
lots of
that is-
experience with this fear person.
we overcomplicate fear. We make
Yeah.
it so much bigger than it really. We overcomplicate it, and that's all you're saying. Just
Wow.
I
That
want
is
to
true.
I want to add one more piece to the meditation and what Katherine was saying. And
Mhm.
when the rumination happens and we keep having the same thoughts and you're trying to quiet your mind, I also was the same. I've been diagnosed with ADHD and autism. And so I like to call myself the neurospicy oracle. But you don't actually have to quiet your mind. It's more around centering yourself and feeling that safety. And so an additional practice for any of those that are listening that might want is I just imagine that it's a garden when I'm meditating, and whatever thought comes up, I just turn it into a flower or a bird or a tree or a leaf. And if the same thought comes up again, all right, I guess I need 2 roses in my garden today. And so it's just like a way to play with that grace and giving yourself grace and not beating yourself up and turning it into something beautiful. Or even if it's that doesn't resonate, turning it into something beautiful. If it's a negative thought, turn it into compost. Compost is literally, it's poop. And so sometimes our thoughts might be poop too, but that's compost, so it's there's creative ways to play with your meditation space too. So I just wanted to add that to what Katherine was saying.
And that
Thank
just
you.
brought up another thing really quickly. I used to say, I don't hear my voice. I don't know. I don't get any answers. So I just want to reassure people that we all hear in different ways. Some hear, some feel, some sense, some just have a knowing. Those are your clairs. But aside from that, if you're sitting in meditation, you have this important question you want an answer to, and you don't get anything, don't say I don't get anything, because you're going to get more of what you say. Okay, like attracts like. But what we can find, and I think Marni, you spoke to it, or maybe it was Esther, when you do your oracle card readings, there's exactly what your answer is. Or I'll watch, a YouTube video, and there's my answer there. Someone says something, and then another person says it. Those are not coincidences. They're your synchronicities. They're your answers. That's how your team, I call them my spirit team, is talking to you and communicating with you. And it's that soft voice inside, and it's quick, and it's not one that's harsh or doesn't have urgency. It's loving. It comes from a loving place. So don't doubt yourself. And I'm talking to myself as I say all of these things. So
Yes, of course, we're always talking to ourselves. Yeah, this is what the whole Fear to Freedom project is all about, is me. I'm the fear to freedom. I am my own project. And yeah, so we are coming to the end of this roundtable, and I just, for the closing, I would like for you all to give me, like, maybe just 15 seconds of what's your takeaway from this sacred space that we have held. What's your takeaway? I'm going to start with Devette. You're on mute.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No sorries.
Just having sisters that vibe, that's vibing up there with you. This journey gets really lonely sometimes, because you can't speak the same way to everyone, because their journey is their journey. And so that is what this meant for me, that this
Good.
was a space that people around the world, I can vibe with and feel their energy through this medium. So that's it.
Thank you. Got it, Katherine. You're up.
yeah, I echo that, because I'm here in Panama and I don't have a lot of people that I can speak to in this way. So this has been, I guess it's the women's circle, Marni, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I
Yes.
love it. So thank you for the invite, Deborah. Love it,
You
love it.
are welcome.
So
Thank you.
nice to meet all of you. Thank you.
Got it, SD.
I echo, the sentiments of Devette and Katherine, that, the sacred space has been so powerful this morning, especially before I go into my workplace, where I'm not able to talk in this way as much as I'd like. So I love being able to start my day this way. So thank you, ladies. But I do have two pieces that really resonated with me, and that's just, our words create our reality. They are spells, and so it's so powerful, and so it's so important. And then 30 seconds saved my life. I can't remember who said that. Maybe it was Kel's. Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And in the same line of the words, our spells is, 30 seconds of us sharing something may impact someone else. 30 seconds of someone else saying something to us can impact us. And just how, how magical is time, because like that's, that 30 seconds is going to actually stretch to a lifetime if it's saved your life. So it's just, yeah, those are the two things that really resonated with me today. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you. All right, Kels, you're up.
Community. This is community. It is exactly what Esther said. This can and has, it can help others, but it has saved me. And it has saved me in a way where I'm able to grow, explore, expand, stretch myself, and I'm not completely out in my comfort zone. Yes. I know that the world say whatever, you got to stay outside the comfort zone, if you got to stay uncomfortable and all. I get it. Been there, did that. But when you are in a cocoon and you are coming into this newness of who you are and discovering who you are, the cocoon is for a reason. And that cocoon that you go into and you start to discover and do the shadow work, do the work, this stuff is going to come and you got to battle it head on. Having spaces and places in community is safe, and it's a way where we can encourage in ways that we can't do it on our own. We can encourage and learn and grow because other people are going through different things. And you will hear one word. Today, it was like various iterations. I mean, I have a few words down here, but it's like, okay, now I need to be on the lookout. Well, how else is fear going to show up? Let me figure this out. Let me test the waters and find out. Oh, are you fair? Are you fair? But this space gives us the ability to do that and do it safely in a way where it's not weird.
Yes.
It's normal.
Yes.
Other people feel this way. Other people go through these kinds of things. And so that familiarity, that family, that strength, that comfort, that protection is found in spaces like this. And it's life-saving.
Oh, good. Goddess Marni.
Are there tears coming, Goddess Deborah? I was going to say we made it the whole way.
I made it the whole hour and a half without crying.
Echoing everyone else's, the safe space for sure, and being willing to have the conversations, like Deborah inviting us here and us all being willing to be vulnerable, to have these conversations, because fear, I feel like, I know when Katherine said, like, you can't have love without like fear, like you can't know love without fear too, but they also can't really coexist at the same time. But being vulnerable puts you in that state of love and kind of smashes fear too, right? Yes. And that's what I got out of this, was like, we were all so beautifully vulnerable and sharing stories and pieces and things that we do and just willing to talk about our fears. And I feel light. Like, I just feel light after this 90 minutes with you ladies. And I only knew half of this group before coming in. So the fact that we could jump in and be vulnerable is just like, it's just beautiful. And that's really what I'm taking.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? The mission accomplished, because your ancestors have called you forth to this place. All of our ancestors have called you forth. And I really appreciate you all coming and you answering the call, the invitation. It's sacred to me, because I feel the same thing. If it wasn't for community and for us like connecting with women that understand what I'm going through, and we kind of share and just be authentic with ourselves, like, I just don't know what I would have done, without my tribe too. So, for anyone out there who is just seeing this for the first time, welcome to the Fear to Freedom Project, and welcome to our tribe. This is a part of the tribe, and we are here just kind of overcoming fear. We are talking about the origins of it, where it came from, transformational tools that will help us to deal with it, understand it, dance with it, not be afraid, get feedback from it. So I'm very happy today, and I am very grateful and honored that we were able to have this sacred space that we have held for humanity. I hope that this medicine is really good for everyone else. And so, again, if you have not subscribed to this channel, subscribe, like, leave a comment, tell us what resonated with you. And for the ladies, thank you. This is going to be the end of our time. I want to bring our candles up so that we can close our circle. And I just thank the ancestors. I thank you for your presence. I thank you for all of the wisdom, the ancient wisdom. I thank you for the sacrifice that you have made. And so you are living through us, and this is in honor of us. I close this circle with love, with support, and with all genuine authenticity. Thank you so much. Our circle is now closed, and we are complete. Peace and love to everyone.
Thank you, Goddess Deborah.
Thank you, Goddess Deborah.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Goddess Deborah.
You are so welcome.